So this is the self-development with tactics book. So today we are once again going to talk about anger management and or anger in general, and in terms of Seneca on anger, the essay. And I still don't really know if it is just multiple pages. I assume it is. I mean, it also depends on how you are just formatting or layouting the whole thing. You know, of course you could just have one big page, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, I'm very looking forward to going through this one because the last one was pretty amazing, which I've uploaded yesterday for you and today for me quite. So it is going to be, just to give it a date, July the 14th, and it is Tuesday, and it is 9 a.m. at the time. And the funny thing is, just a little bit of an anecdote, a little bit of a thought here, maybe this can help you. I have gone to bed yesterday at 11:30 p.m. Quite, I think. It is just, really. And I've also been sleeping on the floor, just because I wanted to see what this feels like. And this is, by the way, also a very stoic thought. Just not live in luxury all the fucking time, but also from time to time, just do something that's not feeling really good. Not just actually only for a day, but for a week and for a dedicated amount of time. And so I thought, well, I wanted to do this for quite some time. But of course, I wasn't just sleeping on the ground. I've had some isolation mat there, and I've had a few blankets and also my carpet and stuff like that. So I do not want to get ill. I do not want to get a cold. So I thought, well, let's just make it a little bit quote unquote easier. It's still hard. It's compared to my fucking bed, it is just fucked up and shitty. But another thing that I've done is just think about my sleep cycles. I do think that we're going through 5 sleep cycles per night. And the past few days, I've actually recognized that I just really don't feel good when I'm waking up psychologically or just emotionally. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go for the sleep cycle thing. So which means that I went to bed at 11:30 and woke up at 5:30, which just leaves me with around 6 hours. I know, probably not quite, because there's also some time involved to just, get to bed and stuff like that. But yeah. So maybe also think about that. Maybe think about sleep cycles. If you're having sleeping problems, this is just what I wanted to tell you. But yeah, let's move ahead. Seneca on anger, part 2. Let us continue our 3-part examination of Seneca's essay on anger with what he writes in book 2. My commentary on book is here. Seneca addresses again his friend Novatus, or Novatus, however you are willing to pronounce it, who apparently has what we today would call anger management issues, by saying there is no doubt that anger is roused by the appearance of an injury being done, but the question before us is whether anger straightway follows the appearance and springs up without assistance from the mind, or whether it is roused with the sympathy of the mind. Anger can venture upon nothing by itself without the approval of mind, which is the second book, first page, I guess, or something. I still don't know, unfortunately. This is Seneca's version of Epictetus' famous warning concerning, quote-unquote, impressions and his discipline of essence. We should always examine our first impression of a given situation, gain what modern psychologists call cognitive distance, and then decide whether our initial assessment was correct or not. Most of the time, according to the Stoics, the answer will be in the negative, and the answer will indeed often be, no, please, fuck you. I'm gonna just zoom in a bit. Well, is this better? Come on. Okay, maybe let's just do it like this. View, zoom in. Yes. Yeah. Can I go just a bit? Can I? Well, anyway. And yes, I would say so as well, quite. That most often we are going to react in a way that is not very beneficial and not very good. And stepping back a bit and seeing whether your response is going to be good or is going to be bad just really makes sense. At second page, I guess, I still don't know, Seneca makes a distinction that still confuses both critics and practitioners of Stoics today, or Stoicism. If anger springs up against our will, it never will yield to reason, because all the motions which take place without our violation are beyond our control and unavoidable, such as shivering when cold water is poured over us, but anger can be put to flight. Can be put to flight by wise maxims, for it is a voluntary defect of the mind and not one of those things which are evolved by the conditions of human life and which therefore may happen even to the wisest of us. We cannot control instinctive reactions like shivering when exposed to cold water, but we can control passions, quote unquote, to use Stoic terminology, that are subject to the scrutiny of reason if we only take the time to do so, and also probably the practice to do so. Indeed, at second book, third page, Seneca even gives a precise definition of a passion, which makes clear why it doesn't map onto our modern concept of emotion and helps explaining why it is not the case that Stoics seek to suppress emotions. They do seek to suppress or control passions, though. A passion, and this is a quote by the way, therefore consists not in being affected by the sights which are presented to us, but in giving way to our feelings and following up these chance promptings. Passions, that is, are cognitively meditated negative emotions. It follows that, quote unquote, anger, so this is a quote, not quote unquote, anger must not merely move but break out of bonds, being an impulse. Now, no impulse can take place without the consent of the mind. For it cannot be that we should deal with revenge and punishment without the mind being cognizant of them. This first confusion of a man's mind when struck by what seems an injury is no more anger than the apparent injury itself. It is the subsequent mad rush which not only receives the impression of the apparent injury, but acts upon it as true, that is anger being an exciting of the mind to revenge, which proceeds from choice and deliberate resolve. The 8th page, I assume, presents a sharp rebuke of common attitudes in human society. A quote, among those whom you see in the garb of peace, there is no peace. For small profit, any one of them will attempt the ruin of another. No one can gain anything save by another's loss. They hate the fortunate and despite the unfortunate. They live as though they were in a school of gladiators, fighting with the same people with whom they live. It is like a society of wild beasts, save that beasts are tame with one another and refrain from biting their own species, whereas men tear one another and gorge themselves upon one another. Sounds like a pretty good description of modern greed. I guess not much has changed in the intervening 2,000 fucking years, which of course is why Stoicism is still so very relevant today. Because yes, indeed, a lot of things may have changed, technology, just bits of society, when it comes to slavery and stuff like that. But of course, in terms of the human being, in terms of how we are just, I think acting and behaving, we just haven't changed that much, Still something, fortunately, also just when it comes to racism and stuff like that. Fortunately, sometimes at least, unfortunately, not always, but yeah, some things have changed, but I think in total, the human kind and the human behavior overall just did not change that much. The 10th page, however, shows Seneca's inclination to be forgiving to the human lot and reminds me of the generally accepted Stoic doctrine of cosmopolitanism. And this is a quote, among the other misfortunes of humanity is this, that man's intellects are confused and they not only cannot help gain wrong, but love to go wrong. To avoid being angry with individuals, you must pardon the whole mass. You must grant forgiveness to the entire human race. And I am a really big advocate of forgiving other people. Whatever it might be all about, whatever this other person did. I don't really believe in hating this person. I don't believe in just also trying to do bad to them. I really don't believe in that. I just really believe that it is in the end going to be something that is going to fuck you. So what is the point of that? I also like a lot of this bit of commentary about the human condition. And this is a quote, what room is there for anger? Everything ought either to move us to tears or to love. Quite, yeah. 12th page. Seneca warns his friend that there is a trade-off between anger and virtue. You can have one or the other, but not both. You must remove anger from your mind before you can take virtue into the same, because vices and virtues cannot combine, and none can at the same time be both an angry man and a good man, any more than he can be both sick and well. 14th page, and I just really believe in that, by the way, shows Seneca the screwed observer of human psychology. Just like Epictetus will later tell his students that it is okay to show outward distress for a friend's loss, while inwardly reminding ourselves that death is a fact of nature. So Seneca writes, and this is a quote once again, "Anger, then, must never become a habit with us, but we may sometimes affect to be angry when we wish to rouse up the dull minds of those whom we address, just as we rouse up horses who are slow at starting with goats and firebrands. We must sometimes apply fear to persons upon whom reason makes no impression. Yet to be angry is of no more use than to grieve or to be afraid. This may sound a bit elitist or Machiavellian even, but I do think he's got a point." 21st page. We are told that anger is particularly common among the rich and powerful because they are used to have things going their way and they consequently become arrogant. Being at the court of Nero, he should know, and this is a quote, do you not observe how a man's anger becomes more violent as he rises in station? ? This shows itself especially in those who are rich and noble or in great place, when the flavoring gale has roused all the most empty and trivial passions of their minds. Family upbringing is important in aiding young men deal with their anger. Once a boy who was brought up in Plato's house went home to his parents on seeing his father shouting with passion, said, "I never saw anyone at Plato's house act like that," from which we also discovered that apparently Plato was in the habit of raising kids, which is pretty interesting, but also pretty strange regarding thoughts, it's actually not funny, well, but I think back in the days it's been actually quite normal to have a little boy as a friend, as a very special friend. As far as I remember, I think I've read something somewhere or just some time or something, I don't know, but I guess. 22nd page. The cause of anger is the belief that we are injured. This belief, therefore, should not be lightly entertained. We should always allow some time to elapse, for time discloses the truth. In essence, again, fight anger with cognitive distancing. Take a break from a situation that is arousing your anger, and once you calm down, reflect on just how important the issue was and on what the best course of action to deal with it really is. It is particularly silly to get angry at things. And this is a quote, "We are angry, either with those who can or with those who cannot do us an injury," which is totally the case and pretty fucked up. To the later class belong some inanimate things, such as a book, which we often throw away when it is written in letters too small for us to read, or tear up when it is full of mistakes, or clothes which we destroy because we do not like them. How foolish to be angry with such things as these, which neither deserve nor feel our anger. Which is actually the case, they just, you're not doing any harm to them. But I don't know if just harm is like the thing that we want to do with anger. I don't believe in that. Also, never mistreat your dog or any other animal, as it is the act of a madman to be angry with inanimate objects, so also is to be angry with dumb animals, which can do us no wrong because they are not able to form a purpose, and we cannot call anything a wrong unless it be done intentionally. A bit of mea culpa, as the Christians would say, is not of order either. Someone will be sad to have spoken ill of you. Think whether you did not first speak ill of him. Think of how many persons you have yourself spoken ill. We have other men's vices before our eyes and our own behind our backs. And this is amazing. This is probably one of the reasons why I love Seneca. His writing is just amazing. We have other men's vices before our eyes and our own behind our backs. Think about it, and it's definitely the case. I mean, we are fucked up. We all are fucked up. We all have shortcomings and we all are bad at something, but we often just don't see it. And we often are just maybe also neglecting to see that. We just don't want to see that we are bad and that we are just maybe not good people in just some regards. But, when other people are just doing something wrong, we're just seeing that and we're thinking about that and everything is fucked up and everything's like, what is this of a person? But yeah, practically speaking, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Beg anger to grant you this at the first not in order that it may pardon the offense, but that it may form a right judgment about it. If it delays, it will come to an end. Yes, totally the case. Totally the fucking case. If you delay anger, then you're gonna realize that what you've been angry about just doesn't make any sense, and it is not that bad, and it's not that of a worst thing or bad thing that happened, which I, by the way, think is also the exact same thing with quite a lot of other emotions. Whatever it might be about, sadness. A lot of things that you might have been sad about 10 years ago, you are now thinking about as, wow, I've just really been a puss. To just formulate that very, very, unnecessarily, quite, yes. The thing is, yes, time heals quite a lot of things, and that might be the case. I think that Seneca actually also said something about that, like, something, so X, Y, and Z can't heal X, Y, and Z, but time can, or something like that. I'm gonna look it up afterwards, I guess. But yeah, anyway. More sage advice of moderation comes at the second book, 30th page, or 30th page. Some offenses we ourselves witness. In these cases, let us examine the disposition and purpose of the offender. Perhaps he is a child. Let us pardon his youth. He knows not whether he is doing wrong, or he is a father. He has either rendered such a great service as to have won the right even to wrong us, or perhaps this very act which offends us is his chief merit, or a woman, well, she made a mistake. What the fuck? Okay. Not just women can, quote unquote, make mistakes, which is a note by the author of this article there. Yeah. Moreover, and this is a quote, suppose that it is a disease or a misfortune, it will take less effect upon you if you bear it quietly. Is it a good man who has wronged you? Do not believe it. Is it a bad one? Do not be surprised at this. He will pay to someone else the penalty which he owes to you. Indeed, by this sin he has already punished himself. Notice the last bit here, the idea that people who do bad things automatically suffer from them because their virtue is affected, and they will have to live with whatever wrong they have done. And it really just reminds me of karma. And just at this point in time, it just makes way more sense for me to also believe in karma, to just be a good person and try to be as good of a person as I possibly can be in every aspect of life. And by the way, if you think about it in that sense, if you think about it in that way, then just being a good person can be your life goal and can be the thing that you just want to focus on. And this is then pretty amazing, Don't have to have something else then, if you can focus on being a good person and can focus on just being as good as you possibly can be. The 31st page also offers some sound analysis based in human psychology. Men think some things unjust because they ought not to suffer them, and some because they did not expect to suffer them. We think what is unexpected is beneath our deserts. This is why we are irritated at the smallest trifles in our own domestic affairs. And I love this pearl. Fabius, however, was wont to say that the most shameful excuse a general could make was, I did not think. I think is the most shameful excuse that a man can make. Think of everything, expect everything. This is good advice, by the way. Don't think about everything. It's unnecessary. 32nd page is about the strange, from a Stoic perspective, concept of revenge. Revenge, and this is a quote, and retaliation are words which men use and even think to be riotous, yet they do not greatly differ from wrongdoing. Someone who did not know Marcus Cato struck him in the public path in his ignorance, for who would knowingly have done him an injury? Afterwards, when he was apologizing, Cato replied, I do not remember being struck. The most contemptuous form of revenge is not to deem one's adversary worth taking vengeance upon. During the recent US presidential elections, we have often heard the phrase, when they go low, we go high, which admittedly didn't work out too well for the candidate who uttered it. Here is a Stoic version from the millennia ago. If anyone is angry with you, meet his anger by returning benefits for it. A a quarrel which is only taken up on one side falls to the ground. It takes two men to fight, but suppose that there is an angry struggle on both sides. Even then, he is the better man who first gives way. The winner is the real loser. Oh, we've actually finished. Quite on time, to be honest. Second book, 35th page, uses an interesting analogy to explain why anger is not a good weapon to respond to injury. Does anyone wish to strike his enemy so hard as to leave his own hand in the wound and not to be able to recover his balance after the blow? Yet such a weapon is anger. It is scarcely possible to draw it back. Out of experience, I can say yes. Totally the case. 36th page, Seneca explains why anger is a form of madness, which we would be wise to recoil from. Ajax was driven by Ajax was driven mad by anger and driven to suicide by madness. Men, frantic with rage, call upon heaven to slay their children, to reduce themselves to poverty, and to ruin their houses, and yet declare that they are not either angry or insane. Other passions gain footing in the mind by slow degrees. Anger's conquest is sudden and complete, and moreover, it makes all other passions subservient to itself. It conquers the warmest love. Men have thrust swords through the bodies of those whom they love, and have slain those in whose arms they have lain. Let those words be warning to us all. It is amazing writing, and it is so much fun for me to just read it. Fuck. It really is. I'm not gonna lie. It's amazing. It is amazing. And the next episode is gonna be the third part, which I think is also relatively long, I hope at least. And I'm looking forward to it, and I believe that there's just really quite a lot in here that is of value and of importance. It's good. But yeah. I wish you the best health, of happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person, which is a pretty cool thing, pretty amazing thing. 3 other questions that I have you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. Another question that I'm having for you is: what could you specifically say that is really going to change somebody's life? What could you just say? What is it? And yeah, with that being said, I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. Bye bye. And I'm hopefully going to see you soon. So yeah, I see you. Yeah.